Kyle with Jamf here, this time with an overview of DEP and macOS pre-stage enrollments. The Device Enrollment Program, more commonly referred to as DEP, allows Jamf Pro administrators to enroll and enforce management of macOS computers remotely. Let's begin by reviewing what enrollment is. Enrollment is the process of adding a device or computer to Jamf Pro. There are several ways to enroll devices, and DEP offers some appealing features for administrators and end users. We'll explore those features in a little bit here, but before we do, let's briefly cover what's installed on a computer during enrollment, as it differs a little bit from mobile devices. There are three main components that are added when we enroll our computer in Jamf Pro. The Jamf binary, which is responsible for facilitating specific types of management tasks. The management account, which is a local account created on the computer and is responsible for remote access via Jamf Remote. And lastly, the management framework. The management framework uses the Jamf binary to check for management tasks in Jamf Pro. Part of the management framework is the MDM profile, which we covered earlier in Lesson 39, MDM for macOS. So the big difference between computers and mobile devices: iOS and tvOS only receive the MDM profile, whereas computers will receive the Jamf binary, the management account, the management framework, and the MDM profile during enrollment. The DEP workflow allows computers to communicate directly to Jamf Pro during the activation process. This works by first linking our DEP account with Jamf Pro and ensuring we've configured a pre-stage enrollment to enroll our computers and enforce management. When a computer is working through the activation process, it will communicate with Apple and verify if the computer is associated with DEP. If it is, the computer is then provided with the enrollment details for the MDM solution it's to be associated with, in this case, Jamf Pro. The computer is then routed to the Jamf Pro server and enrolls according to the details specified by the pre-stage enrollments that the computer has been scoped to. At this point, any policies, configuration profiles, app installs, or other management tasks that have been scoped to the computer will automatically begin. Let's get into our Jamf Pro instance and take a look at our DEP settings. We can do this by navigating to the settings icon at the top right, clicking on Global Management, and clicking on the Device Enrollment Program object on the right here. Here we can find the details associated with the DEP instance our Jamf Pro server has been set up with. Click on the 100 DEP enrollment. The relationship between DEP and Jamf Pro is established with a server token file, which allows Jamf Pro to read from DEP to know which computers are connected to our DEP instance. I'm going to click Edit at the bottom right. You'll note that once the token has been uploaded to Jamf Pro, you'll be able to see the computers and mobile devices associated with our DEP account. This will be useful when we go to create our pre-stage enrollments. If we click on Devices, we can see that we have one computer and one mobile device in our DEP instance. Now let's take a look at the pre-stage enrollment that we have set up with our Jamf Pro server. We're going to click on the Computers tab and go down to Pre-stage enrollments under the Enrollment category. Pre-stage enrollments function as a set of instructions for computers enrolling into Jamf Pro through DEP. They can be configured by a Jamf Pro administrator to apply settings and curate the user experience of setting up a macOS computer. I'm going to create a new pre-stage enrollment by clicking the New button at the top right. And first we'll need to configure a display name. We'll call this Jamf 100 Course Pre-stage. It's possible to have more than one DEP instance. It may be that your organization has one per campus or one per office. We just have the 100 DEP, so I'm going to select that. We have the option to automatically assign new devices that are enrolled with our instance. And we can use existing location information associated with those devices if they have any. We need to provide a support phone number and a department to associate this pre-stage with. We have the option to make the MDM profile mandatory, which we'll want if we want to deploy configuration profiles or remote commands. We can also allow our users to remove the MDM profile. If we allow the user to remove the MDM profile, We have to consider that any configuration profiles that have been associated with that MDM profile will also be removed, so I'm going to disallow my users from removing that. Now we can customize the setup assistant. This allows us to skip certain steps we may not want the users to set up. This can be really useful, as your organization may be enforcing a policy that ensures that, say, file vault encryption is in place on the user's computer, and that the encryption keys are escrowed with Jamf Pro. We wouldn't want that user to set up file vault encryption when we know that the organization will be managing that requirement for us. We can see that by default none of these boxes are checked, and I think we'll leave it that way in order to allow a simple, seamless setup process for our end users. We can now turn our attention to some of the associated settings for our pre-stage enrollment. Let's take a look at account settings first. Here we can specify our desired management account, Jamf Pro, if I click Configure. Our management account information will be pulled from the user-initiated enrollment page. We could change that if we navigated back there. We also have the option to create an additional local administrator account. So say, for example, if you want an IT account in addition to the management account. We can also set the type of account creation for our end users. So if we want them to be administrators with full access, or if we just want them to be standard users with only access to their home folders. We can also skip this account creation process altogether if we want to deploy an account through Jamf Pro instead. I'm going to leave this at administrator for now. If we move to user and location, we can pre-configure the user, building, and department associated with enrolling computers. So if I wanted my computers in this instance to enroll in the Minneapolis building, I could select that from the drop-down. We can also specify passcode requirements as part of this pre-stage. We could also do this after the fact with a configuration profile, which we'll cover in a future lesson. If our Jamf Pro server is connected with GSX or the Global Service Exchange, we could populate purchasing information for our computers or manually enter it here, provide attachments, certificates, and directory services. Now that we have our settings configured, we can scope our pre-stage enrollment. Scope controls which DEP computers these settings will be applied to. Jamf Pro can access the list of available computers from your DEP instance, and from here we can select which computers we would like to apply our pre-stage enrollment settings to. We'll scope this to Josh at Jamf. It is the only computer in our instance right now, and click the Save button. We now have a scoped pre-stage enrollment set up within Jamf Pro. When our computer is turned on and goes through activation, the computer will be routed to the Jamf Pro server and enrolled. Our computer was set up earlier in just this way, and in fact we can look at the computer inventory record to verify. We'll navigate to the Computers tab. I will search for Josh at Jamf. Click on the enrollment record. And if I scroll down, I can see that the enrollment method for this computer is pre-stage enrollment. If I take a look at the User and Location tab, we can also see that the building it's associated with is Minneapolis. Let's take a look at the user experience with DEP and pre-stage enrollments. Our setup will begin as normal. We'll select our country or region and our keyboard layout, after which we'll select a network and enter the password. Next, see the Remote Management dialog appears, which informs the user that the computer is being configured by our organization's Jamf Pro server. If the user so decides, they can click on the Learn More link to be provided with more information about the management of the computer. And once this has been completed, the user will create their local administrative account. The Mac will complete its setup, and the user is brought to the desktop. We can see that self-service is installed. We can open it up and see the apps that are available to our end user. And if we take a look in System Preferences, we can click on the Profiles pane and see that the MDM profile has installed as well. In summary, DEP enrollment and macOS pre-stages help administrators enforce management remotely and allow for customizable user experiences when setting up our macOS computers. This has been DEP enrollment and macOS pre-stages with Jamf Pro. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next lesson.